I was a collector of old gaming consoles. I have almost every discontinued one, from Game Boys to the Nintendo 64. Some pieces in my collection were ones I had during childhood. For context, I grew up during the early 2000s. A lot of handheld game consoles were released back then. In fact, more than half of my collection consisted of such devices. But one incident destroyed this passion of mine. It all started one sunny day when I was walking my dog Maxine. We were taking our usual route through the park when Maxine suddenly stopped. She stared at her left for a few seconds before bolting in that direction. Maxine is a full-grown Newfoundland who's a little overweight. I, on the other hand, am a pretty scrawny woman. Maxine practically dragged me along as I held onto her leash as if my life depended on it. She wouldn't stop no matter how much I yelled. Maxine stopped near a large oak tree and sniffed something in front of her. I walked up to her, expecting it to be a squirrel or something. It wasn't an animal. There was a small cardboard box that was poorly taped closed. The sides looked dented as if someone kicked it around. I picked it up, wondering why Maxine was so interested in it. That's when I found the words Pixel Chix Manor written on the box in black marker. Pixel Chix games were my favorite back in grade school. I'm familiar with every toy from that franchise, but I never heard of a Pixel Chix Manor. I used my switchblade to cut the tape and opened the box. I looked inside and found something interesting. There was a small gaming console with a design similar to Pixel Chix's. It had 5 rooms and 3 floors. The first 2 floors had 2 rooms each, while the 5th was on the 3rd floor. Instead of the usual pastel colors, this console had dark, bold colors. There were 7 deep red buttons at the bottom of the toy, with arrow buttons on the right. The 7 buttons were the same as those of the Pixel Chix house. Yes, no, bedtime, fashion, food, fun, and go out. Intrigued, I decided to take the box and the toy with me. Seeing as the toy was dumped in the park, it didn't seem like stealing. Plus, it's not like anyone plays Pixel Chix anymore. Maxine was whining the whole way home. She only whined when she wanted pets. I stopped to pet my dog several times, but no matter how much love I gave Maxine, she wouldn't stop whining. I entered my house and sat on the couch. Maxine sat beside me as I tried to turn on Pixel Chix Manor. When it failed to activate, I decided to check its batteries. When I opened the battery compartment, I found something other than batteries. A small, folded piece of paper was stuffed in the compartment. I took the paper out and unfolded it. It was a note written in the same handwriting as the marker on the box. The note read, "Please don't play this game. There's a reason why this toy was never released." The message only furthered my curiosity. The note basically admitted that Pixel Chix Manor is a real toy from Mattel. But if that's the case, then why wasn't it released? What reason was the note's author talking about? I figured that this toy was a buggy prototype or something. But to be sure, I placed new batteries in the Pixel Chix Manor and turned it on. The screen that showed what looked like a banquet hall lit up. A woman was sitting at the table, drinking from a chalice. The character wasn't any of the 3 pals you typically have in a Pixel Chix game. Her hair was in a light gray bun, and she wore an old-fashioned dress. The most unusual feature was her bright red eyes. For those who don't know, all characters and items in Pixel Chix were only in shades of gray and black. The games had no color whatsoever. I suspected that Mattel was experimenting with color when they made Pixel Chix Manor. The pal stopped drinking and then turned to me.
Hello there.
The pal greeted me with a wide grin.
I'm Etna. Welcome to my manor.
I was surprised by what I just heard. The pals in Pixel Chix were voiced by the same woman, Tara Strong. This one, however, didn't sound like her at all. Instead, this voice sounded older, like a woman in her 50s. Moreover, the Pixel Chix character introduced herself as Edna. The Pixel Chix pals never had names. Even the name itself was strange. Edna was a name that was popular back when my grandma was growing up. Then again, Edna's manner and attire were pretty old-fashioned. So I assumed that that was the point. With that in mind, I carried on. I started the game by pressing the fashion button. As I expected, all of the outfits were old-fashioned. I picked this beautiful red dress with a matching little hat. Yes, some of the options had some red color. Edna complimented me on my choice, and I moved on to the food button. Based on what I'd seen so far, I figured a butler would bring her food on a silver platter or something. But instead, Edna entered the neighboring room. This room looked like a kitchen from the 19th century. Two shapeless crimson blobs hung from the ceiling attached to black lines. Edna approached one of the blobs, grabbed onto it, and started biting into it. She devoured the blob like a jungle cat, getting its juices all over her face. The scene and the clear sounds of growls and chewing made me cringe. I sat there trying to process what I was looking at when Maxine started barking. I nearly dropped the toy as the sudden noise startled me. By the time I got Maxine to calm down, Edna had stopped eating. About half of the blob she ate remained. A red splotch covered Edna's mouth. She then turned to me and said,
So tender and juicy.
in a cheerful tone. I finally understood that those blobs were meat. I don't know how people preserved meat before refrigerators, but I'm pretty sure nobody left it at a room temperature like that. A normal person would have at least cooked the meat, but instead, Edna just ate it raw like a wild animal. I watched in shock as Edna casually returned to the banquet hall and wiped her mouth with a napkin. I suppose anyone else would have turned off the game and never played it again. But something compelled me to keep playing. I was beginning to understand that Pixel Chix Manor wasn't released due to its disturbing content. However, I couldn't stop playing until I'd seen everything Pixel Chix Manor had to offer. I pressed the fun button and Edna walked up the stairs and into the room above the banquet hall. This room was a library with a grandfather clock standing at the left side of the background. Edna browsed through the books until she pulled one out and opened it. She read the book for a second before chanting in a strange language. As she did so, all the other rooms lit up. One by one, a person appeared in each room. Their eyes were black with red pupils. The characters faced the screen and then started singing. The singing was more like Gregorian chants. It reminded me of Nox Arcana. I was watching this unsettling performance when I realized something else. The singing figures were wearing outfits from different eras. For example, there was a man in the bedroom dressed like a US Marine from World War II. I recognized it because my great-grandfather was a Marine during that time. The characters sang for about 3 minutes before fading away. I must admit, as creepy as that was, I actually enjoyed it. Way less disturbing than the kitchen scene. Anyway, I decided to press the go out button. But instead of exiting her home as I expected, Edna did something else. She asked me if I'd like to come to her manor. Edna then stood there in silence, as if expecting me to answer. I was confused by Edna's query. None of the Pixel Chix pals had ever asked such a thing before. I don't know why, but something compelled me to press the no button.
Oh, that's a shame.
Edna said.
Oh well. I'll just invite someone else then.
With that, Edna exited the manor. The game then shut itself off and wouldn't turn back on no matter what I did. Suddenly, Maxine let out a long howl. It wouldn't occur to me until later that it was a sign of what was to come. For the rest of the day, I tried to turn Pixel Chix Manor back on only a few times. After the third time, I concluded that the game was broken and gave up. Disappointed, I threw Pixel Chix Manor in the trash. Maxine was also acting weird the whole day, too. She wouldn't stop looking out the windows. I also heard her let out a low growl sometimes. It was as if Maxine was expecting something terrible to happen. For the record, Maxine was never the aggressive type. She tends to bark at squirrels, but that's it. I decided to ignore the weirdness and hope it would end soon. I was getting ready for bed that night when I heard Maxine barking. She was staring out my bedroom window. I was trying to calm her down when I heard something else. Maxine stopped barking just in time for me to hear better. My window faced a neighboring house and was aligned with the neighbor's bedroom. I could hear what sounded like muffled screaming coming from the house. I also noticed a faint red glow coming from the neighbor's window. I didn't understand what was happening, but knew I had to call the police. I dialed 911 and reported a home invasion. I wasn't entirely sure if that was what was happening. All I knew was that I had to help my neighbor. I watched the neighbor's window, hoping to find something to tell the dispatcher. When the police arrived, the screaming ceased and the red glow faded away. I put on my jacket and shoes before going outside. By then, the rest of the neighborhood had gathered near the house. It seemed that I wasn't the only one who heard the neighbor. After searching the entire house, the police couldn't find him. All they found was bloodstains on his bed. I woke up the next morning and entered my kitchen when I heard something in the trash can. I opened the lid and found the Pixel Chix Manor activated and functioning properly. Edna was playing the harpsichord in the library. I picked up the game when something caught my eye. The kitchen screen was lit up, showing the bundles of meat that hung from the ceiling. It took a few seconds for me to realize that there was one more bundle of meat than before. Edna looked at me and stopped playing her harpsichord. Edna greeted me and claimed she found someone to visit her manor last night. She then commented on how said visitor should have laid off the Red Bull as it ruined the flavor. I felt my stomach churn. My missing neighbor was addicted to Red Bull. My eyes slowly moved back to the 3 meat slabs in the kitchen. My hands shook as a horrifying realization dawned on me.
What's the matter, Jamie?
Edna asked. How did this game know my name? I looked back at Edna and saw that her face had changed. Her eyes were completely black, and she smiled, revealing sharp fangs.
I'll come over tonight,
Edna said, sounding creepier than before. I immediately took out the batteries, which thankfully turned off the game. However, I don't think that solved the problem. Somehow, having no batteries kept Edna from taking me. It's been 3 weeks and I'm still scared for my life. I tried destroying Pixel Chix Manor in every way possible, but nothing I did could leave a scratch on it. I want to dispose of it, but can't risk anyone else finding it. All I can do is keep it hidden in my house without batteries. I also pray that there are no other Pixel Chix Manors out there.